think that India made US blink and bow first?
No, I would never say that, Anjali. I think both nations wanted to ensure this wasn't not going to be a T20 game. It was always going to be a test match, and I think that's what we saw play out. Indian side obviously wanted to ensure that their interests are taken care of. We talk about the non-negotiables, the red line, and whatnot. And I think American side obviously wanted to ensure that their businesses also get some kind of market share, even if it means something when it comes to agriculture and other aspects. So I think both sides, were very firm in understanding what the other side wanted, and it was a hard negotiation. We do know for a fact that there was a deal in July that was agreed upon. Then they had to rework their numbers because certain sectors were not working out for the American side. And then I think the whole Russia punitive tariffs, it kind of complicated the situation. But again, I think we've seen positive momentum in the past 4 months or 5 months or so. And then, as I've said before on our broadcast, that I think the Ambassador Sergio Gore was able to quickly move this. He has been a trusted aide of President Trump from his first administration throughout the 4 years that he was President Trump was not in office and comes back, as president's man, and then starts, doing things in India, making sure that India's challenges are conveyed directly to President Trump and his team here in Washington, D.C. And now we finally have this trade deal, which is sweet enough at 18%, as we were saying. We did not get it. I mean, that's something we would have gotten last March or April. But now I think it's both been agreed upon that both sides have a lot that they can gain from and claim victory from this deal.
Absolutely, Rohit. Both sides gain a lot from this trade deal, and it is significant for both the sides, be it India or the United States. But some big conditions have also been set by Donald Trump for this trade deal. Let us take a look on that. So Trump has said that India must bring Russian oil buy to zero. So that is one of the conditions that has been mentioned by Donald Trump, that India must bring the Russian oil buy to zero. Donald Trump has also said that India needs to buy Venezuelan oil, and India must bring tariff on US to zero. That's also one of the big conditions that have been set by Donald Trump. US also seeks European Union-like duty concession. Trump says India must buy $500 billion worth US goods. So these are some of the conditions that have been set by Donald Trump. Business Today's Sakshi Batra continues to stay with us. Sakshi, some conditions have also been set by Donald Trump, not just the lowering of tariffs, but Donald Trump has also said that $500 billion purchase must be made by India, and he's also seeking European Union-like duty concession.
Absolutely. But, this is all, in the stride for both the nations. Remember, India had already been marking out, most of our companies, including Reliance Industries, had already been marking out how they are reducing the purchase of Russian oil at this point in time. And for Venezuela, we had always been buying Venezuelan oil. It was not like we never used to buy Venezuelan oil. And it was only after the sanctions were put, we reduced it and we started to purchase from some of our other partners. So even if we are able to get a lower level of crude oil to import from Venezuela, that would still be a win-win for us. And Russia being our friend, we are going to be continuing other trade partners at this point in time. If this is the condition that has been laid, it will be followed, because that was one sticky issue because of which the US-India trade deal has been delayed. And if that has been decided, if US President Donald Trump has indicated in his Truth Social post that India has agreed to bring down its Russian oil purchase to zero, we are probably going to be doing that. But Russia being our friend, we are not going to be putting them at bay, and we are going to be continuing our trade with them. Venezuelan oil, it again is going to be a good part for us, because again, Donald Trump's own idea is to keep crude oil prices low, and that also augurs well for an oil importing country like us. So in case most of the experts who've been analyzing crude oil and how Donald Trump wants it to be at, most of them experts that Donald Trump would want crude oil prices to stay below $60 per barrel. That definitely augurs well for an Indian economy like ours, because we are an oil importing nation. And even if we get Venezuelan oil at this price, it would still be good for us.
Right. Sakshi, do stay with us. Rohit Sharma is also with us. Rohit, how do you think this trade deal is going to impact the relations between India and Russia? Because Russia is a good friend of India, but with Trump saying that India has to make its oil imports from Russia to zero and buy oil from Venezuela, how do you think it's going to impact the India-Russia ties?
I think we have to wait and understand what the response from MEA would be. We have to obviously understand that yes, this could be something that we'll have to navigate and balance properly. But look, I think India's always believed in strategic autonomy, right? I mean, we've said that we need energy, we need oil, and we don't have any other option. India does not. It's like 1% from Iran, less than 1% from Iran back, and then we diversified. We went to Russia. Now we can't. We're trying to diversify and also go to the US. So I think India will find a way to do this. Yes, the president has said that they've acknowledged that India is buying less oil from Russia. The goal is that India should stop this buying this oil from Russia. But then till when? The answer is until the war is on. So let's assume if the war ends in Russia and Ukraine, then India would be free to do what it wanted to do, to buy more oil from Russia if it wanted to. So I think it's not in perpetuity. I'm sorry, I couldn't say that word, but it's not perpetual. Anyways, essentially, long story short, I think there is a way out of this. I think India will be able to get this, balance this out, hoping that the war in Russia and Ukraine can stop. And once that war stops, I don't think President Trump is going to come and hound India. In fact, President Trump has said things like America wants to do business with Russia eventually once the war is stopped. And he's trying really hard. Steve Witkoff is going to be in Abu Dhabi discussing the next steps when it comes to Russia and Ukraine war. So I think at this point in time, I think India has been able to convince the Americans they'll be reducing the purchase. But once the war is stopped, there's no more war between Russia and Ukraine. I'm pretty sure, like America, India would be free to do trade with Russia.
Is ahead for India and Russia ties, which are likely to also be impacted because of this trade deal between India and the United States. But I would request Rohit and Sakshi to please stay with us. Let's also understand how India made Trump blink and bow first. So Prime Minister Modi did not rush to take Donald Trump's call. So there was no rush from Prime Minister Modi's side on the tariffs that were imposed by Donald Trump on India, which stood at 50%. Hard-nosed diplomacy over hurried deals. So there was no rush, and there were talks that were ongoing for months after the tariffs were imposed. India kept bilateral channels quietly active. So bilateral talks were happening. Commerce Minister went to United States for a series of dialogues with the United States over the trade deal. No reaction to provocation, only calculated silence. So there was no immediate reaction from the Indian side despite multiple provocations from the United States. There was only calculated silence from New Delhi. In fact, New Delhi played the long game and Washington eventually blinked. So there was no hurry from the Indian side. The talks were on, and India made sure that there's no hurried deal that is made, and it did not compromise on any of the conditions that India stood firmly at. And this trade deal has been signed on India's terms, not under pressure. So India made clear that it will not compromise, and there was no pressure, and this deal was though delayed, but it was agreed upon on India's terms and there was no pressure.